Welcome to our show. This is Crooked Doctors. We're a live call-in show. We're at 212-245-2773. That's 212-245-7273. We're on Fridays from 6 to 7 p.m., Channel 34. We're also streaming live on the internet, so if you're not in Manhattan, you can always watch us through the internet. Let me go through what I did was these shows are taped live and I'm editing them to put them up on the internet because I'm talking my attorney through the appeal and I'm also talking to the U.S. Marshals and a whole lot of other people. The supportive evidence that you need, the documentary evidence and other evidence is posted on a new blog, and it's, if you go to the blog site, http://www.crookeddoctors.blogspot.com, you're going to see a lot of the documents that I refer to. So, for example, in last week's show, when I was talking about how Detective Cologne had lied on the witness stand and admitted that he lied on the witness stand, you can go and look at this yourself. Judge McLaughlin is the judge in my case, and he acknowledged that Detective Cologne lied on the witness stand. So if you have any questions, you can email us at crookeddoctors@yahoo.com, and I will respond to your questions. In fact, I got 2 questions, so let me answer them. I'm going to do the easy question first. Now, remember, 2 shows back, let me just give you a review of the show so far. The first show on June 24th was an overview. The second show on July 1st, I presented 4 documents that show irrefutably that John Scarfone, Associate General Counsel at Yeshiva University, lied about me in federal court in 2006. I was asked by another student, by several students. Students were calling me and asking me to provide evidence, information to build their cases. That's why I was so important. I was not James Michael Lenahan bootstrapping. I was the foundation on which other students were building their cases. So, I was named as a witness in 2006 against John Scarfone, Jimmy David, Dan Rizal of the law firm Sive, Paget, and Rizal. In fact, all the complaining witnesses in the farce of a criminal trial. I was named as a witness against these principal actors back in 2006. They had a retaliatory motive. And 3 years later, in 2009, they went down to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and pressed false criminal charges against me. And that's part of this show. There are larger institutional questions, which I will get to. So in show 2, I presented 4 documents that show that Associate General Counsel John Scarfone is paid a lot of money to lie. And in 2006, when I was named as a witness against him, I was not afraid. I said, use my name. I had no idea John Scarfone would go through these lengths to actually testify against me and make up stories and press false criminal charges. But that leads to one question that I got, which was, why is the Nassau County Civic Association involved? Because John Scarfone lives in Nassau County. He lives in the town of Melbourne, and he and his wife gave false information to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. And what they said was that I had showed up at their house on Tuesday, September 23rd, 2008, around early in the morning, about 8 o'clock in the morning, and that I had harassed John Scarfone's wife. John Scarfone says that he wasn't there. He got a phone call from his wife claiming that some woman had showed up, claimed that she was me, and was bothering his wife at their home in Melbourne. Now, that's not true. I was nowhere near Melbourne, and I could not have been, and there's a lot of evidence that shows that. For example, I had gas and toll receipts the day before on Monday, September 22nd, 2008. I had gone to visit, and this is called an official visit. I had gone to visit Colonel Kevin C. Riley, MD, at Fort Knox, and I had a 3 o'clock appointment for which I was late, and I was speeding. Yes, I was. And State Trooper Newman gave me a speeding ticket. I also had gas and toll receipts, so I presented this to my attorney and tried to present it to the judge and the district attorney and said, look, there's no way that I could have been at Melbourne at John Scarfone's house in Long Island the next day because I was at Fort Knox, Kentucky. I didn't leave Fort Knox, Kentucky until after sundown, probably after 9 o'clock at night. I had gas and toll receipts and a speeding ticket to show that I was coming in and that I was going out. Now, do you need all this stuff? No, because Kevin Riley is a phone call away. So what you're telling me, Assistant District Attorney Alex Spiro, is that you couldn't make, or you didn't make, you refused to make a single phone call to an alibi witness to confirm that I had left Fort Knox after 9 o'clock at night, and it was a physical impossibility for me to drive approximately 1,800 miles from after 9 o'clock at night to get to Long Island by 8 o'clock in the morning to harass John Scarfone and his wife. It's not true. You had an alibi witness, you had gas and toll receipts, you had a speeding ticket from Trooper Newman. Oh, and by the way, when I presented these gas and toll receipts to corroborate my story, I was told that they were non-specific to my car. Are you kidding me? I got a speeding ticket. It had my name, my license plate number. And to go back a little bit, when I was coming into Fort Knox, I had to call twice and say that I was late so that you have my cell phone, which was pinging off towers. Do you think that a person just waltzes onto Fort Knox? I had to go through security. There were photographs. I had to talk to people. When I got into Fort Knox and I went to the hospital where my friend was stationed, when I walked in and introduced myself, he was talking to his boss. And I embarrassed him just a little bit. Not enough to get him into any real trouble, but just enough so his boss would remember me and what I was wearing. And I was there at Fort Knox for several hours, left after 9 o'clock at night. I remember this because Kevin had complained a little bit that it was after 9 o'clock at night and he had to go to work the next morning. He walked me out to my car. He saw my car. He saw the damage to my car, and I had explained to him that I was hit while legally parked in June of 2008 and trying to recover from those injuries. Kevin watched me, Colonel Riley watched me drive away. The next day I was in Washington because I had to do some stuff. And I have eyewitnesses who will confirm that I was in Washington about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, the stupidity that I got from John Scarfone and his idiot wife who pressed false criminal charges against me was that I drove to their house, harassed them in the morning, and then hopped a shuttle plane to Washington. Yeah, that's really ridiculous. What did they do, airlift my car? The facts are, I never harassed John Scarfone at his home in Melbourne, ever, and specifically never on Tuesday, September 23rd, 2008. The charges that John Scarfone brought against me in 2009 were retaliatory. And on my second show, I'm trying to pick out the clearest examples I can. I was named as a witness in another student's case. Other students against Yeshiva University's medical school had contacted me. I said, yes, I will provide, and I did provide information, evidence. I talked their attorneys through all the information that they needed to make their cases, or as much as they asked me for. I would have done more had they asked me. And in 2006, I was named as a witness against John Scarfone. He had a retaliatory motive, and what he said in 2006, and the documents are posted on the blog site, was that as a first-year medical student, I had failed all my classes except for Todd Olson's anatomy class, because Todd Olson's such a nice guy. Todd Olson is not a nice guy. Todd Olson is a psychopath. There's no polite way to say it. So, I had shown that John Scarfone lied about me in 2006, and there were 3 documents. This is from my Introduction to Clinical Medicine class that show I did not fail that class. I also had in criminal trial Dr. Blau stipulate to the fact that I did not fail his class. Why is this important? Is because Dr. Blau stipulated that I didn't fail Introduction to Clinical Medicine, that Associate General Counsel at Yeshiva University had lied in federal court about me in an attempt to discredit me as a witness. And Dr. Blau had reported my passing grades to James David, who was director of the class, and a woman named Janice Baddock. So James David, who's a complaining witness against me, also knew, it was his job to know, that John Scarfone had lied. And Dr. Blau had reported my passing grades to my promotions committee. And sitting on my promotions committee was James David again, Todd Olson, Michael J. Reichgott, and Janice Baddock. So the entire promotions committee at Yeshiva University's medical school knew from 2000, it was their job to know, it was their responsibility, it was their duty to me to know that I had not failed Introduction to Clinical Medicine, and that in 2006, John Scarfone went to the federal court and lied, and Yeshiva University paid him to lie. So that's quite a religious school you got there, Rabbi Lamb, where you pay attorneys to bear false witness against your neighbor. So in my my third show on July 8th, a very kind gentleman, a wonderful guy named Gilbert James, had come forward and said, you know, it's really interesting that you're talking about Yeshiva University because that's my alma mater. And here's what they told me at my interview. We were comparing notes. When I was interviewed for admission to the medical school, I was told that this was a non-denominational school. And here you go, District Attorney Vance. This is evidence. This is the Association of American Medical Colleges. This is the authority, and I'm going to post these pages on the blog site, Crooked Doctors at the Crooked Doctors .blogspot.com. I'm going to post these pages so you can confirm this. I also reported this to the U.S. Marshals, so I'm posting it up there so they can look at it. Oh, I have some friends who know prosecutors and judges in other states, so they can look at this on the website. And congressmen that I went to who tried to help me can look at this. And Brigadier General Patrick Finnegan at West Point, who's an attorney admitted to practice in the United States Supreme Court, can look at the evidence because I posted it online for ease of reference. So this is 1995 medical school admissions requirements, and this says that Yeshiva University is non-denominational. This is medical school admission requirements, 1996 to 1997, where the school again advertises that it's non-denominational. And here we go, medical school admissions requirements from 1999 to 2000, where again the school says it's non-denominational. Now, this is significant, by the way, because 1999 is the year that Yeshiva University was found to discriminate. So why is this important? And you should be aware that I was sent to Albany to check on Yeshiva University's charter. This was the information that I had to give to attorneys who were representing students. And yes, we did check their charter, and I'm going to go low tech for a minute because I had there was a question that was asked. Well, you know, why is it important? And the medical school says it's non-denominational. Because the charter, here we go, we're going low tech. Now, the important information here, the important point here is that you get the information. It doesn't matter whether I go high tech or low tech. The important thing is that you have the facts, the evidence, and the law at your fingertips. That's why I'm posting this on the internet. So here we go, low tech now. Yeshiva University, let me see if I get this. So the easiest thing to do was to make up a sign. and just draw a little diagram for the viewing audience. And basically, up in Albany, what you got is, let me make sure there's no reflection here. You don't get your degree from the individual constituent schools. You get your degree from Yeshiva University. So as I stated previously, Yeshiva University is this umbrella, the mother institution. You get your degree from Yeshiva University. And Yeshiva University is the degree granting institution, and we had Gilbert James say that in his, right here, in his interview for Yeshiva University School of Social Work, he was told that if you come to the social work school, if you get your degree, your master's degree in social work from the social work school, there's going to be religious rules. You're going to have to obey religious rules, and you're going to have to study religious classes. It's a requirement for our social work school. But here at the medical school, right, which is also a constituent school, here at the medical school, I think there's some reflection that I'm trying to work around. Here at the medical school, they advertise that they're non-denominational. So here's Yeshiva University. The social work school has religious rules. The medical school doesn't. And then you've got the undergraduate college, which is over here with Diane Persky. She's at the undergraduate women's school. And again, I'm trying to, there's some reflection here, but I'm going to post this up on the blog site so it's easier to understand. At the undergraduate women's school, we've got Diane Persky. In 1999, she's a conservative Jewish woman, and the school was found to discriminate against Diane Persky because she was told that she wasn't Orthodox enough. Specifically, she was told she wasn't Jewish enough. Do you love it? She's not Jewish enough. Are you kidding me with this nonsense? So in 1999, in the Diane Persky case, while Diane Persky is showing that this Orthodox Jewish school has religious rules and that she's not Jewish enough, in 1999, the medical school is advertising that it's non-denominational. So you've got the big university, you've got the social work school that says if you come here, there are religious rules that are going to be imposed on you. You must live as an Orthodox Jew. Have to follow our dietary rules. I should make it clear also that at the medical school, the Asian students used to complain that at this non-denominational school that we were deceived into enrolling in and matriculating in, that it was non-denominational. But the organization of Asian students could not use the cafeteria for their meetings because if they had their traditional dishes, which include, oh my gosh, pork, they couldn't celebrate their history, their customs, their traditions, because it's not a non-denominational school. It's an overtly Orthodox Jewish school. Nobody cared. They should have been honest with us. And the reason why the school is not honest is because they had a choice. And the choice was presented to them in the late 60s, early 70s. And they got a letter from the IRS and they were told, you've got a choice, in effect. Essentially, they were told, if you want to be a private religious school and have private religious rules, mazel tov, but you can't take any public money. So just go private, have your religious rules, discriminate away, we don't care, do it on your own money, because after all, you know, we're a nation that tolerates a diversity of opinions and beliefs. Just don't hurt anybody, but go have your private school. But if you take the public money, then you can't have these religious rules. So there were other schools that made the decision. It was hard and they went private. Yeshiva University didn't. Yeshiva University wants to pretend that it's non-denominational while it takes the public money and runs a religious school. And that's where they get into problems because they want to sit on two seats. And that's where they used me as a token in the admissions process to demonstrate diversity. I was older, I was unmarried, I was not Jewish, I had minority student status for socioeconomic reasons, not for racial reasons. So basically I was hired to be fired. They let me in the front door and then they had to railroad me out the back, and that's what they did. So the answer to one of the questions that I got was, why is it so important? You know, why were you talking to, I'm sorry, let me fix this a little bit. At the social work school, right, Gilbert James had said, yeah, at his interview he was told this was an Orthodox Jewish school with religious rules. I was told that the medical school was not religious. And Diane Persky was found, in 1999, Diane Persky, there was a finding in the Diane Persky case that there are religious rules. So this is Yeshiva University, and they contradict themselves and they lie. So that's why it was important that I was presenting this evidence, and I'm going to be posting these pages that show that, you know, the school lies. The school also, in my case, stipulated that when they recruited me, they lied. This is a stipulation. So a stipulation means that everybody agrees. The prosecutor agrees, my attorney agrees, and Judge McLaughlin agrees. So there was a stipulation that the school agreed to. They confessed, in effect, to fraud in recruiting students. I was an honors graduate of Columbia University. I had offers to go to 3 medical schools. I didn't have to put up with this Orthodox Jewish school. I didn't have to go there. I didn't have to have anything to do with these people. Did they not deceive me into saying that they were non-denominational when they're not? And they promised me that if I attended their medical school, they would support student research 100%. That's not true. That's part of how they induced me, they deceived me into enrolling in their school. I thought research was very important. I wanted to do research. I felt that that should be part of the medical school curriculum. And the school admits that I was doing very good work and that I was on track to be a principal author on 3 to 5 original clinical research papers. You should be impressed with that, because, you know, most doctors, if they get 1 or 2 papers out a year, that's good. I was getting 3 to 5 under overtly hostile conditions. I was on track to be a principal author on original clinical research papers, and the school refused to support my work. They wouldn't even let me make grant applications. Forget about internal grants. They wouldn't let me go to the grants office to make applications for outside grant money, for outside grant support. Subsequent to my illegal expulsion, I got a federal grant, and I demonstrated that, not only did I demonstrate increased functioning, which undermines the lies that John Scarfone would like to tell about me, and the rest of the dishonest doctors, crooked doctors at Yeshiva University, but I got a grant. So basically, you got a medical school where you don't want to publish papers, you don't want students to bring in grant money. I mean, God forbid you should be a success. So, that answers those 2 questions that I got. John Scarfone lives in Nassau County, and the Nassau County Civic Association does not cotton to attorneys who lie, attorneys who try to hurt people like Yeshiva University hurt me, and they're also interested in some of the other issues in my case, which I'll be talking about in future shows. Now, because I'm trying to make this as easy to understand as possible, I want to present some new information. And let me go to I'm trying to make this as easy to understand as possible. So I'm trying to pick out some examples, some outrageous examples. So let me pick out an outrageous example. This is not just about the attorneys who lied. This is about the judges who lied. And what I'm going to do is just give a brief overview of the case against Judge Rodriguez in Jersey City. Judge Rodriguez could have solved all these problems in summer of 2008. I gave her enough information so that she knew that my medical school committed federal student loan fraud. I gave her case law that showed that with a city court judge and a pro se litigant, she could have decided then. In fact, I gave her case law that showed in New York there was a student, school had lied, didn't deliver the services in the classes that the student had paid for through a federal student loan program, and a city court judge with a pro se litigant could have solved the problem. And I gave that information to Judge Nestle A. Rodriguez, who's the chief judge in Jersey City. So in June of 2008, I explained to Judge Rodriguez my landlords who had been in contact with my medical school, and John Scarfone signed an affidavit on September 18th, 2008 that said yes, he had gotten a phone call from people involved in my landlord-tenant case showing there was contact. So in June of 2008, my landlords in Jersey City, Ralph and Magda Pagnozzi, filed false criminal charges against me. They were dismissed. Those charges were dismissed. I did not plead guilty to anything in Jersey City other than a minor traffic violation. So there was no plea bargain. I didn't threaten a judge. These people are liars. And in June of 2008, Judge Rodriguez, I explained to Judge Rodriguez that I needed a public defender. I was required to disclose my financial information, and in the process of disclosing my financial information, I had related to her how my medical school had falsified financial information, and I gave her case law that said she's a city court judge, she's got the Code of Federal Regulations, she could, with a pro se litigant, I didn't even need a lawyer, she could have solved this problem. She didn't. Instead, she gave a verbal no contact order on, and I'm just going through the highlights of the case against Judge Rodriguez. On June 10th, 2008, I stood up in front of Judge Rodriguez with my public defender, Kevin Pervin, and asked for a written no contact order. She refused to give it to me. Now, Judge Rodriguez, a verbal no contact order is worthless. My landlords are going to do something stupid because they've done it before. I'm going to have to call the police, and the police will come to my house, and without a written no contact order, I've got nothing to show them. She refused to give me a written no contact order. Kevin Pervin said he didn't know how to get one, so I fired him. Then I went to his boss. Then I got another public defender. And on July 30th, 2008, I stood up in front of Judge Rodriguez again with Jonathan Goodman. And again, we asked for a written no contact order because Judge Rodriguez, when my landlords violate your verbal no contact order and I have to call the police, what am I going to show them? I need the written no contact order. And again, Judge Rodriguez put me at risk. In the first 2 weeks of August 2008, my landlords violated Judge Rodriguez's no contact order, and she told me, when this happens, come down to city court and file complaints and I will enforce my order. I tried to do so. There were 5 or 6 separate occasions, and the city court officials in Jersey City refused to take my legitimate complaints because it was keep it off the record, keep it off the record, keep it off the record at the city court level, because at a higher level, Judge Fast in landlord-tenant court is looking down on this, and he cannot rule against me when I'm demonstrating that my landlords can't control themselves, and you can't negotiate in good faith with bad landlords who are violating a municipal court judge's no contact order. Moreover, had Judge Rodriguez enforced her no contact order when my landlords violated it, Ralph and Magda Pagnozzi would have gone to jail and lost custody of their minor children. So in order to protect a bad landlord, I had to, and my family had to suffer through the Pagnozzis my landlords violating Judge Rodriguez's no contact order in the first 2.5 weeks of August 2008. I had to go down to the courthouse, get these certified audio tapes, and play them for the police. On September 12, 2008, I outed Judge Rodriguez, and she didn't like that. She doesn't want anybody to know that she's a corrupt judge. So in retaliation, she did a whole lot of things she shouldn't have done. Most notably, she helped my landlords and their criminal defense attorney destroy evidence. That's called obstruction of justice and is a very serious crime. The evidence that Judge Rodriguez allowed to be destroyed were videotapes of my landlords violating her verbal no contact order in summer of 2008. And I have witnesses to this. And I'll just briefly describe one episode where my landlady comes to my door, rings my doorbell. This is Magna Pagnosi. She has a video camera in her hand, and I am seen leaning out the front window going, "Magna, what's wrong with you?" There's a no contact order. Now, when there's a no contact order in Magna, and I'm trying to recover from a car crash that left me with 5 herniated discs and a pinched nerve, you don't come to my house in violation of a no contact order, ring my doorbell, and then stand there filming me, leaning out my window going, "What's wrong with you?" That's not what a normal, decent person does. So that's the highlights of Judge Rodriguez. In June of 2008, I gave her enough information for her to rule so that she could solve the problem of federal student loan fraud. On July 10th, 2008, she refused to give me a written no contact order. On July 30th, 2008, she again refused to give me a written no contact order, leaving me at risk. In the first 2.5 weeks of August of 2008, my landlords violated her verbal no contact order at least 5 or 6 times. City court officials in Jersey City refused to take my legitimate complaints, and they refused to obey Judge Rodriguez's verbal orders, which were, when your landlords violate my verbal no contact order, come to the city courts and I will enforce that order. She refused. And subsequently, when I publicized these facts, part of what I did was I gave out handbills at the court. She didn't like it, so she retaliated. So those are the highlights against Judge Rodriguez. Judge Falcone, Municipal Court Judge Nino Falcone, is a dishonest judge from North Bergen. My landlords paid him to lie. I don't have to go through all the lies that he told. I'm just going to give you 2 data points. He served notices that were in violation of a criminal court judge's no contact order. Yeah, my landlords are so bad that I had to go into court, to criminal court in Jersey City in January of 2008, get a criminal court judge to give me a written no contact order, and 10 days later, my landlord and Judge Nino Falcone, the city court judge from North Bergen, violated it by giving me notices. Those notices were illegal. Then we went through a whole bunch of stupidity, and in September of 2008, Judge Fast ruled against me in landlord-tenant court. It was stupid, but it doesn't matter, because a few weeks later, my landlords cashed my checks while I was still living in the apartment, thereby waiving everything that came before that and accepting me as a tenant. So there was no eviction. And everybody acknowledged that on Thursday, September 25th, 2008. There was no eviction. My landlords had cashed my checks. Even, I don't even have to talk about the stupidity of what Judge Fast ruled on, but my landlords had cashed my checks, thereby accepting me as a tenant. There was no eviction. And a few days later, on Tuesday, September 30th, 2008, Municipal Court Judge Nino Falcone lied to a hospital in order to have me physically assaulted and to have Robert Cross physically assaulted. The results of that physical assault could have left me with serious bodily injury, could have left me paralyzed or dead. So there's your case against Judge Falcone. Judge Fast is an idiot. Judge Fast made up, this is the landlord-tenant judge, made up rulings, wholesale fabricated garbage. And I don't have to go through all the stuff that he did. What I can do is just hit a few high points. He found non-party witnesses credible. Asaf Rosenheim is a self-identified Israeli ex-military who got up on the witness stand and confessed to perpetrating an immigration fraud. This was the non-party witness that Judge Fast, for example, found credible. Judge Fast, when confronted with the facts that my landlords had cashed my checks subsequent to his bogus ruling, and this is part of post-judgment relief, made up another ruling that said, what I'll do, Lydia, is I'll withdraw my ruling against you. I'll let your landlords cash the checks, and then I'll reinstate the judgment against you. That's ridiculous. So those are a few of the high points of the case against Judge Fast, which now brings us to Judge McLaughlin. And Judge McLaughlin, in this case, acknowledged that Detective Cologne lied on the witness stand. And I've posted Detective Cologne's testimony on my blog site. And basically, what Detective Cologne said was, we didn't take Ms. Radin's complaint seriously because she had a retaliatory motive, and she filed her complaints against Yeshiva after Yeshiva filed its complaints against her. That's not true. That's a propaganda technique that was used to try to confuse my case with another student's case. And remember this low-tech sign. Okay, this is not hard to understand. Let me just sort of orient this a little bit for you. Okay, John Scarfone in 2006 lied against me in federal court. Whoops, let me fix this a little bit. 2006. John Scarfone, Associate General Counsel at Yeshiva University, lied about me in federal court. And then 3 years later, in 2009, he filed false criminal charges against me. And guess what? The Manhattan District Attorney's Office had that information for a year before I went to trial. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office knew irrefutably that John Scarfone had lied about me in federal court 3 years before. And Judge McLaughlin acknowledged that in the trial testimony that I posted. Why is all this really important? Because here's the really good news. I went up to Washington Heights. This is the 34th precinct, and I asked some of the residents, would you be willing to sign a petition calling for an independent federal prosecutor? And they said yes, because they've had it with police that lie. They've had it with district attorneys that lie. And they've had it with judges that lie. So thank you, Washington Heights. And I will be delivering hundreds of signatures that say we want an independent federal prosecutor. Because when you've got judge after judge after judge that lies, and police detectives who lie, and district attorneys that lie, we don't have a judicial system. We have a means of repression. They also, the residents of Washington Heights, and this is another great thing that they would agree to, are willing to sign a petition that says, and I explained this to them when I went to Washington to talk to our senator, our United States Senator, Charles Schumer. And you'll be proud of me, Dr. Blau. I used a little humor, and I said, who's against Senator Schumer? We're not against what Yeshiva University is doing. Let me see if I understand this correctly. And I had gone to Congressman Micah's office and ran this past a member of his staff and other members of his staff. And I said, let me see if I understand this correctly. We all pay taxes, and our tax dollars go to promote private religious education. Who's against? I think that's fabulous. How much money do the Catholic schools get? And when I ask that question, what I get in response is a phony baloney separation of church and state argument thrown in my faces. So if you are to go to YouTube and look at me address Cyrus Vance at his first town hall meeting in Washington Heights, I say to Cyrus Vance, District Attorney Vance, here's my motion to dismiss. I'm putting it in your hands. And by the way, while we're here in Washington Heights, can you show me, Mr. Vance, District Attorney Vance, the great big wall of separation of church and state at Yeshiva University? Because I don't see it. Could you show it to me? Because I'm not against what Yeshiva University is doing. I just want my Catholic schools to get the same good deal, the same fair break, the same fair shake, the same equal break, the same equitable consideration. And guess what, Mr. Vance and Senator Schumer? Catholics are 40% of the vote in New York. So the reason I was drop-kicked into Rikers Island was to get me to shut up. Because the last thing Senator Schumer wanted was for me to get 5 minutes at every city council meeting in the state of New York saying, who's against? I think that's fabulous. Thank you, Yeshiva University, for opening up the floodgates for the rest of us. How much money do my schools get? How much money do the Baptists and the Buddhists and the Hare Krishnas? How much money do all the other schools get? And the answer to that question is they don't, because we have a phony baloney separation of church and state argument. That doesn't apply at Torah College or at Yeshiva University. And how do I know that I'm on solid legal ground? Because one of the things that I did, I just want to check the time here. One of the things that I did is I ran all my arguments past a former White House attorney named Mr. Mikey Weinstein of Military Religious Freedom Foundation. And Mr. Weinstein knows Yeshiva University. Oh, by the way, all those phone calls, they can be traced, Mr. Weinstein. And Mr. Weinstein said, Lydia, stop dancing around it. Just start telling the truth. These people are bigots. Just say it. I'm Jewish. I'm not Jewish enough for this university. My wife is Jewish. She's not Jewish enough for this university. Mr. Mikey Weinstein had asked Yeshiva University for money, and they refused to give it to him, claiming he wasn't Jewish enough. You know, like Diane Persky, the conservative Jewish woman who the school was found to discriminate against in 1999. She was told she wasn't Jewish enough. That's true, but the real reason Yeshiva University did not want to give Mr. Mikey Weinstein money to fund his Military Religious Freedom Foundation was because they didn't want Mr. Weinstein's organization to attract attention to the fact that while Mr. Mikey Weinstein is building this great big wall of separation of church and state in the military, and he's going after generals, there's no separation of church and state at Yeshiva University or Torah College. So, Mr. Weinstein, how come there's a great big wall of separation of church and state that you're building in the military, but I don't see it out here for us civilians? Could you show it to me? So, Judge McLaughlin didn't want me going down this road, and he didn't want to talk about the events of 2005 because that would open the door to all these events in question. Judge McLaughlin did a lot of things he shouldn't have done. Not only did I post Detective Cologne's testimony on my blog site, Crooked Doctors, and you can read for yourself how Detective Cologne lied. It's not so much that Detective Cologne lied, but the judge knew that he lied. And Judge McLaughlin said, it doesn't matter, Lydia, I'm pointing this out. So let's go to, and then I'm going to present some new information. And I'm going to speed this along a little bit because I only have 15 minutes left. But we all remember, and I'm going to go to, and change the view right here a little bit. Oh, we're right here. Here we go. We all remember. Here we go. This is page 39. And I'm going to increase this so everybody can see it. And I say to Judge McLaughlin, we're not done. We're not done because I reported all this in 2005. we're not quite done because I reported all this in 2005. Now remember, I'm facing criminal charges in 2010, and the school pressed criminal charges against me in 2009, but I'm reporting this in 2005, and I want you to look at page 39, so I'm going to go back to it. And the reason why we're looking at page 39 of Detective Cologne's testimony is that I reported this in 2005, and the court, Judge Edward J. McLaughlin, says it doesn't matter a whit. Yeah, it does. And the reason why Judge McLaughlin doesn't want to open the door to 2005 is because then we're going to go into the events of me going to Congressman Weiner's office, having my material sent to the Bronx District Attorney's office, having Assistant District Attorney Linda Tacoma lie to Congressman Weiner's office. And if you're listening out there, Brigadier General Patrick Finnegan at West Point, this is why I came to talk to you. I want you to see the big picture here. You've got the Bronx District Attorney's office lying to a congressman's office, okay? These are the people we're supposed to trust to communicate full, true, complete, and accurate information to our elected officials so they can make good decisions, but that's not what's happening here. We've got the Bronx District Attorney's office giving incomplete information to mislead our elected officials. Ooh, are you getting the big picture here, Brigadier General Patrick Finnegan? Judge McLaughlin was going to let me enter this CD into evidence. And on this CD that I had distributed widely, I talk about, this CD was made in the weeks before trial and distributed. And I talk about how in 2008, me and Mike Tyberg had gone to Robert Morgenthal's district attorney's office and talked to ADA Jonathan Lenzer, and we reported federal student loan fraud. So again, my complaints came first in 2008. So were I to call Assistant District Attorney Jonathan Lenzer to the stand, I would have the Manhattan District Attorney's Office testifying against itself. And this information was suppressed. The criminal trial transcript has been changed because I was at trial, and so were people who were taking notes. And Judge McLaughlin had said, I'll let her enter the YouTube videos into evidence. And that fact has been changed in the criminal trial transcript. Here's another example of Judge McLaughlin cooperating in the crimes against me. And I'm going to show you an example that makes it really, really easy. And we're going to go to Dan Rizal's testimony. I'm trying to give you the easiest to understand examples, and because there's less than 15 minutes left, I'm going to go to Dan Rizal's testimony. Dan Rizal is on page 89. This is Dan Rizal of Sive, Paget, and Rizal. Dan Rizal is a 70-year-old guy. He's not a child. And he got on the witness stand and he authenticated my emails. He claimed that I was harassing him because I was trying to talk about the crimes in my case. Now, he's a former federal prosecutor. I'm trying to talk to a former federal prosecutor about judges who are lying. He claims he got emails from me, and when Assistant District Attorney Alex Spiro, remember you can use this information because if Alex Spiro is prosecuting you, Alex Spiro has no credibility. If Detective Cologne is a detective in your case, Detective Cologne has no credibility. If Judge McLaughlin is the judge in your case, like he's the judge, and that's why I need the word of mouth in Washington Heights. That's why I need every resident in Manhattan to get word to Africa O's and the Abyssinian Church, and to Reverend Calvin Butts, and to Reverend Al Sharpton, and to Congressman Rangel. I need your voices because this is a judge, and I'm going to show you a judge who, this is Judge McLaughlin, who purports to be so grossly incompetent that he doesn't know the rules of evidence. So if he's so grossly incompetent that he doesn't know the rules of evidence, as I'm demonstrating with one example, page 89 of my criminal trial transcript, that he needs to be removed from the bench because he's so grossly incompetent that he's dangerous to others. And so is Assistant District Attorney Alex Spiro, and so is my defense attorney, Michael J. Redenberg. So there you've got Dan Rozelle on the witness stand, and the Assistant District Attorney, ADA Alex Spiro, comes and says, Mr. Rozelle, are these the emails that you got from Miss Radin? And Dan says, yes, these are the emails that Miss Radin sent to me. Now, what's wrong with what I just said? What's wrong with what I just said is Dan Rozelle does not authenticate my emails. I authenticate my emails. I'm the one who's supposed to say yes or no if I sent these emails or not. And if you want to check this theory, what I suggest is that we set up, Yahoo will give 6 free email accounts. Let's set up an email account, and we'll send an email to Dan Rozelle from the King of England. And then we can have Dan Rozelle on the witness stand, and he can say, oh yes, look, this is the email I got from the King of England. Okay, so let's go look at the criminal trial transcript. It violates the rules of evidence. Okay, if I send a letter, I authenticate my letter. If I send an email, then I authenticate my email. I say yes or no if this was the email or the letter that I sent. So to have Judge McLaughlin listen to this and sanction and condone it, that basically what you've got is a judge who's demonstrated that he's so grossly incompetent that he needs to be removed from the bench, and his license to practice law must be revoked, because it should not be up to me to get on a public access television station and show how grossly outrageous this is. And it is on the record, and it can be cited to in my appeal. So this is for my attorneys out there, because this is a little tutorial for them. We're going to look at page 98 of my criminal trial transcript. Here we go. And I'm going to make this really large so we can all see it. And here you go. These are emails that I received from Miss Radin. Now, I'm going to post this on my blog site so that everybody can read it. And I'm going to turn it into flyers. And by the way, when I went up to Washington Heights last week, I made up flyers saying, Detective Cologne lied on the witness stand, and guess what? You can use this. And the judge is corrupt, and guess what? You can use this. You can get new trials. You can have all sorts of great and wonderful stuff can happen. You don't have to put up with detectives who lie or assistant district attorneys who lied. I'm having 5,000 of these printed up, and I'm going to wallpaper Washington Heights with it, and it will help Africa O's and lots of other people who are victimized by a corrupt, and we don't even have law enforcement. What we've got is a means of oppression and repression. And the wonderful thing about living in Washington Heights is that the Dominicans, the people from the Dominican Republic who live there, they know what I'm talking about. I don't have to explain Yeshiva University's crimes or Yeshiva University's racism to the Dominicans who live in Washington Heights. They know. They have to fight for everything they get every day. I don't have to explain it to them. They got to fight for their streets. They got to fight for their apartments. They got to fight against Yeshiva University's racism every single day. So let's go back to page 89 of my criminal trial transcript. And what we got here is, let me make this really large. Mr. Rozelle, are these the emails that you received from Miss Radin? And what he says is, yes, these are emails that I received from Miss Radin. And are they a fair and accurate copy of the emails that you received from Miss Radin? Yes, they are. And then Alex Spiro offers them into evidence. That's illegal. Let me bring this down a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's illegal. Dan Rozelle does not authenticate my emails. This violates the rules of evidence. I authenticate my emails. not Dan Rizal. The judge, the assistant district attorney, and my attorney all are supposed to know the rules of evidence. And if they don't know the rules of evidence, then they're so grossly incompetent that they need to be removed from the bench. So, just so there's no mistaking, these are emails that I received from Miss Radin. And are they a fair and accurate copy of the emails that you received from Miss Radin? And he says, yes, they are. My attorney objected, but my attorney objected as to foundation. So Michael J. Redenberg is so grossly incompetent, he can't even make the correct objection. Do not hire Michael J. Redenberg, because this is not ineffective assistance of counsel. And by the way, that is an appealable issue. This is defense counsel. It was much more than ineffective. Defense counsel was deliberately malicious. Defense counsel is malicious. I had to take the knife out of my back after Michael J. Redenberg stuck it in there. Let me give you another example very quickly of Judge McLaughlin, because this is the case against Judge McLaughlin. And again, I'm trying to pick out examples very quickly. I got 4 minutes left. So at sentencing, Judge McLaughlin deliberately kept a pre-sentencing investigative report from me. So Judge McLaughlin wants to hide the events of 2005. He doesn't want to enter videotaped YouTube videotapes because they show that my complaints came first. And at sentencing, there was a pre-sentencing investigative report that I had never seen. So let me show you the pre-sentencing investigative report. And this is page 5 of the pre-sentencing investigative report. And my attorney, Mr. Redenberg, whose name is misspelled here, says, "Judge, as an initial matter, I am in receipt of the PSI, the pre-sentencing investigative report, and me, the defendant, I say, I am not. I have never seen it. I have never seen it. I am not. I have never seen it." And the reason why Judge McLaughlin does not want me to see the pre-sentencing investigative report is because people lied. Dan Caro lied. The complaining witnesses against me lied. I could have stopped the harm to me in May of 2011 had that pre-sentencing investigative report been provided to me. So basically, there I am in the courtroom. My attorney says, I got the pre-sentencing investigative report. I've got Michelle Bayer, who is the trial supervisor for Assistant District Attorney Alex Spiro, and I've got the judge, and all of them are conspiring to keep the pre-sentencing investigative report from me because, and here we go, in the pre-sentencing investigative report, the city probations officer says, we never talked to Miss Radin. On page 3, the probations officer said, we never talked to Miss Radin, and on page 7, they say, here's all the stuff she said. So again, the city probations officers purportedly are so grossly incompetent that they don't know whether I talked to them or not. And as we're going out, I got about 2 minutes. So let's see if I can show you that document very, very quickly, hopefully before we go out. Here we go. Page 3 of the pre-sentencing investigative report. And let's see if I can get this in before we go out, because I probably have less than a minute left. This is, the defendant was interviewed. Defendant interviewed? No, defendant refused the interview. That's not true. I was told it was going to be rescheduled. And what we've got here is the New York City Probations Department officers are so grossly incompetent that on page 3 of a pre-sentencing investigative report, that was hidden from me by Judge McLaughlin. They say I never talked to them, but on page 7 they say, here's all the stuff that she said. And I'm going to post all this on a blog site so you can read it. So as we're leaving, I'm going to post all this evidence that you can use to your advantage on Crooked Doctors at blogspot, www.crookeddoctors.blogspot.com. And you can start using this information to start protecting yourself against the farce of the criminal justice system. And I'm going to explain some more in upcoming episodes. Thank you for your kind attention.